Hey guys, it's Natalia and welcome back to another episode of Fashion Design 101. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make bias tape. Bias tape is a really great way to finish a raw edge. I've seen it most commonly used these days in corsets. It's that top binding that you'll see. Sometimes it can be used on the inside of garments to finish off a seam, on like really nice coats and things like that. Sometimes there's bias on a seam to finish that edge. There's a million different uses for it, and it's something that you can buy pre-made or you can actually make your own, and it's quite simple. It's best to make your own if you're using some sort of specialty fabric or special colored fabric that you might not be able to find a bias tape that matches perfectly. So I'm going to show you guys how to use a 10 by 10 inch square to make a continuous piece of bias tape. I'll measure it at the end and put the number here of how long it actually ends up being because I don't know it off the top of my head, but you can actually make quite a lot of bias tape with very little fabric. So that being said, there's a lot of tools that can help you make bias tape. So there are little bias tape makers like this one, which you like kind of feed the fabric through and then it folds it the way you need it to. So if you have one of these, that's the easiest way to go about it. But I'm going to show you guys how to make one out of paper. Kind of works the same way. Obviously these metal ones are the best, but if you don't feel like buying one of those, just use some sort of like heavier cardstock type paper, and I'll show you guys what to do with that once we get to it. But that being said, let's just get straight into it. There's a lot of different types of bias tapes that you can make. There's a lot of different sizes and different types of folds. Something like this is a single fold. If it goes down like this, it's a double fold. And of course there's different sizes. It can be 1 inch, half an inch, 2 inches. It's all preference. I'm gonna be making this one, which is a half an inch total, folding in 1/4 of an inch. So if you don't know what bias means, it's the stretchiest part of the fabric at the perfect 45-degree angle. So you'll notice that this fabric is just a pretty straightforward cotton. It has the tiniest bit of stretch going lengthwise, crosswise. There's really not much to it, but the most amount of stretch in any fabric, even if it has no stretch, will be at the 45-degree angle. Just because of the way that fabric is woven, the 45-degree angle creates the most amount of flexibility. So when something's draped on bias, it means that it's cut with the grain line matching this 45-degree angle. So that being said, that angle is very, very important to us. I'm gonna turn this fabric around because it has texture on it. It's just gonna be easier to do it on this side. I'm gonna take my ruler and match up both of the corners. I'm gonna pencil that in. And because I'm gonna be doing 1 inch bias, I'm just going to mark out 1 inch on the rest of the fabric. And now what I'm gonna do is cut it right down the middle on that 45-degree line that we created. So now that we have two sides, we're gonna take this one and match it to this side so that you'll see we'll have this kind of like 45-degree angle piece happening. These lines that we've created, I'm gonna line up at 1/4 of an inch difference because we're gonna put a seam allowance there. So basically, I'm gonna make these darker so you can see this better. So we're gonna put this to this. So it should match, as in like this line and this line will both be hit when you sew. So it'll be kind of like 1/4 of an inch off or so from what you think it is. And you're gonna do that for all of these. You'll have little corners at the very end on both sides, and that's normal. We're gonna sew this at 1/4 inch right through here. I'm gonna place it at 1/4 inch seam allowance and sew right there. And these little extra corner pieces you can just chop off. And now we're gonna open up that seam and iron it down so it's nice and clean. I'm gonna go ahead and iron the rest of this. So now you should have one really nice flat piece. Now that we have our piece like this, we're gonna take this corner, match it up over here, take this corner and go like this. And we're gonna do basically the same thing we just previously did. I marked all the lines a little bit darker at the edges just so you can see that hopefully a little bit better, but we're gonna move this little corner down so that it's offset by 1 inch. So instead of putting this to this one's actually gonna go to this one. So it won't be like this perfect little square, it'll be offset by 1 strip basically. So I'm gonna pin this. So now that that's pinned, we're gonna do the same thing and we're gonna sew at 1/4 inch. So we're gonna sew again at 1/4 inch. So now it's time to cut, and we're literally just gonna be following the lines that you drew previously all the way around. And you'll see it'll create just a really giant loop of bias. And you should now have this super long continuous piece of bias. Now we're gonna make a makeshift bias tape maker. So this is what the real ones look like. They're nice and sturdy, but you can easily use cardstock paper, so something that's a little bit thicker. And all we're gonna do is measure out 1 inch, since that's the width of our bias tape. And then I'm gonna measure 1/4 inch, and then 1/4 inch again on the other end. And we really don't need it to be this long. I'm gonna make it a lot smaller actually. I'm gonna take about that much and then cut it. So now here, we literally just want to fold on the lines that we made. So now it should look like a little bias tape, like so. And we're gonna take this to the iron. So we're gonna take the end of the bias tape, and essentially what we're gonna do is put our paper over it and then use it to guide the folds. And here, you'll be able to pull on it and see that the bias tape starts to create itself, and that's when you're gonna wanna iron it. And then you just continue to move the paper and create your tape. Obviously it's bound to like move around a bit, so you might need to continue to kind of check on it, but you'll end up with bias tape that looks like this. The bits that have the seam in them are gonna be a little bit harder, so you might have to like really work them in there just because they're bulkier. For the sake of time, I'm not gonna do the whole thing because I don't actually need this bias tape, but essentially it'll look like this. If you use the metal instead of the paper, I think it turns out a little bit more accurate, but this is a really great alternative. You can also just do it manually if you just fold in one of the sides like this and then fold in the other and do that the whole way through. I just find that that takes so much longer sometimes, so this is a nice little life hack. So that is it for today's tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up and let me know down below what more you want to see from me. I have a whole series called Fashion Design 101 on my channel where I teach you everything from the very basics of sewing and how to thread a machine to pattern making your own stuff and all the different techniques in between. So if there's something I haven't done yet that you want me to do, please let me know down below. I'd be more than happy to share. And that being said, subscribe for more if you're not already so you don't miss out on the next videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!